I solemnly swear that I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Hey everybody, Ron here from The Truth About Addiction. Today's guest is Roslyn. I'm very happy to have Roslyn on our show, and I'm quite sure she's got some stories to tell and some, I'm hoping, some beautiful purpose and direction for all of us to take on that we know. No matter what your afflictions, addictions, history is, that there's always hope. And just for the day, I'm very, very grateful to have Roslyn on. So Roslyn, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you for having me. So my story from addiction started, I was born in a small town in New Zealand, and both my parents were addicts. By that, what I mean is my father was dead at 48 with alcoholism. And my mother, to cope with the alcoholism and addiction, and this is many years ago, so there wasn't the support and the podcasts around and things like that now, as there are now. My mother, to cope with the addiction, would go to her doctor and get Valiums. So she became addicted to the prescription medication. My parents were both very enterprising people in business. They were go-getters. And again, we were in our small town. And so to the small town, it looked like we had it all together. We lived in the big house on top of the hill. I think way back then, and friends that I have now seen a bit more of my story go, Roslyn, I thought you had it all, like in the big house on top of the hill. So as I said, my father was dead at 48. Both of them also smoked between 40 and 80 cigarettes a day each. I now know that was a result of their underlying issues, which, as I said, the support wasn't around then. I remember my mother went to our family doctor and she said, I'm worried about Bill's drinking. And his advice to her was to sit down and have a gin with him at night. So that was she couldn't get the help. I also remember one incident, she must have been in so much pain as I look back. We lived in a farmhouse and she was out on the porch where there was a block of concrete and she was smashing flagons. Do you know what flagons are? Yeah, she was smashing them and crying. I now understand so much of her pain. Of course, I was young. My father died when I was 16. So what did I do after that at 20? I married an alcoholic. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
Of course, unaware and unknowing, and that was very, very familiar to me. My husband even was very similar to my father. So I was always trying to, even though I was young, I was kind of like the rescuer in the family, and I was always trying to stop the pain of the drinking in my family of origin. That didn't happen, so I picked up someone else to create my codependency patterns on.
Yeah.
Now, my addiction is codependency. I don't use substances. I haven't pills, needles. Mine is people addiction and my codependency. And my main message is codependency kills. I call it the mother of all addictions. And by that, what I mean, Ron, is it sits under all the other addictions. So let's say alcohol is their drug of choice or whatever. If they give up the booze, they've still got to do the internal work underneath for the reasons they were using it, the reasons they were chemically numbing themselves. So go back to my story. So I got married at 20 and married an alcoholic. So I just repeated the blueprint just straight on and walked straight into it. We then had 4 children and our marriage was not good at all, the same problems. Instead of my mother at the kitchen table crying, it was me with the same sort of situations. My marriage was in such trouble, we decided we'd shift to Australia. And in my blindness then and unaware, I thought once we shifted over to here that we could recreate our marriage and everything would be fine again. So off we came on an aeroplane in 1987 with 4 children, and all of my emotional baggage came as packed luggage with me. Soon after we arrived here, my sister-in-law from New Zealand came over, and she had been, because my former husband's mother was alcoholic. So his mother was alcoholic, my father was, we were the perfect match. But in those days, Ron, I just thought it was all about him. I thought if he stopped drinking, then we'd be right. I didn't understand about my own addiction to codependency. I didn't even know what the word was. Didn't even, and it wasn't for the want of trying. I first went to my first 12-step meeting 35 years ago. I went to Al-Anon for families of alcoholics and ACOA. And it wasn't until my sister-in-law came over from New Zealand, and she had been going to Al-Anon in New Zealand because her mother was alcoholic. And she said, "You need this book, Roslyn." And it was a book by Melody Beattie called Codependent No More. I don't know whether you're familiar with that book. It was like a life raft, and also I got a bird's eye view at my own addictions. When I was reading that book, it was like reading my life story. I wasn't just on every page, I was on every line. So then I read that book in one sitting in one night, and at least I could identify what was wrong with me, because I would go to psychologists, psychiatrists, counsellors, and because I wasn't using needles, bottles or anything, and I was in business. I'm a hairdresser by trade, so I had a business at this, businesses with a lot of staff. So it looked like I kind of was okay. They didn't understand. So went to many of those people. So I read that book, and then my challenge was I couldn't get anybody to support me. I couldn't get anybody to grab me by the shoulders and go, "Roslyn," and support me, because people, in my opinion, didn't understand codependency. And that was 25 years ago. I still think there's limited understanding about it now. And the gravity of it and the fatality of it. I stayed in my marriage for 12 years, still trying to make it work. My husband and I would separate. Things would boil up, we'd separate. He'd say, "I'll go to AA, I want to stop drinking." I would be delighted. It was like God's answering my prayers. And then we'd separate, then we'd get back together. We'd separate. I did that 5 times over 10 years, 5 times. In the middle of this, and you will understand, I had 4 children growing up in this dysfunctional home with their parents, both addicts, me addict as well, and identifying my addiction. So what did they start doing in their earlier years? They're looking for relief, which I believe everybody that's an addict is looking for relief. They started using drugs and alcohol as well. So this had rippled down. Finally, in the year 2000, on January the 15th, I was so sick, I couldn't get out of bed. I'd gone back to my marriage for the 5th and final time. What I want to point out here, Ron, is when you are a person addiction, the withdrawal is equally as devastating as any other addiction. So that was what was driving me back, my own withdrawal from my husband, which he was my drug. He was addicted to the alcohol. I was addicted to him. So you can imagine the dynamics. So in the year 2000, January the 15th, I had become very sick. I'd gone back again for the 5th time. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't function. I'd lost 12 kilos in 3 weeks. It was my rock bottom. I just wanted to die. I couldn't do it anymore. My sister then came over on Saturday the 15th of January because she knew I was unwell. And she said, "I don't know what to do with you." And I didn't know what to do with me either. So she rang a person that I had connected with who had been in the AA program and since done her codependency work. And that person, who is not around anymore, she advised her to take me straight to the hospital. So my sister drove me to the hospital. I couldn't even walk. I hadn't been out of bed for days, and I couldn't keep water or certainly not any food down. And I got to the hospital. I was just begging the doctors to let me die. Please let me die. And I wasn't trying to get attention. I wasn't getting sympathy. I just wanted out. Get me out of here and get me out of here quick. That was the last time I went back to my marriage. I knew to go back, it would have been death. So I then continued my journey. I never went back even to my own home. We lived in a beautiful home on the Brisbane River. I never went back to I knew going anywhere near that stuff would kill me. So there was no contact with my drug of choice, my husband at the time. So that was, I really had to dig down and do my journey. My thing is that I couldn't get the right support. I couldn't get someone. I now support people in this situation for codependency coaching and addiction coaching. And I wish I'd have had someone like me 25 years ago. However, maybe if I had had someone like me to call me on my own bullshit and guide me, then I wouldn't have such a fire in my belly to help others. Because I thought if I can get myself out of this, I would like to help, because I knew there were thousands, if not millions, of people feeling like I did and not knowing what was going on. I want to go back now with my children, started using in their teenage years to cope with what was going on. So that has resulted in 25 years of my some of my 4 adult children being deep in addiction. So it's been prisons, rehab, psych wards, overdoses, police, open heart surgery from endocarditis from a dirty heroin needle. It's been all of that. And my biggest thing was I didn't want it to ripple down onto the next generation, but the horse had bolted.
Yeah. Well, the reality is, as you said, people don't understand. Addiction's got nothing to do with the chemical. It's got that we have a obsessive compulsive need for something that we think's changing the way we feel, even though it's killing us, and we can't stop doing it.
That's
So
right.
that's what addiction's got nothing to do with chemicals. I say to people all the time, you don't have a drinking problem, you have a thinking problem.
Absolutely. Any action, thought related or not, that we continue to do and can't stop despite the negative consequences in our life. The craving is so strong. So as I said, that's resulted in a lot of suffering for me and my children for 25 years in addiction.
I too have adult children.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing this recovery thing since 1981. I first realised I had a problem, and I got into a relationship with another addict who I'd met in rehab. In a very short period of time, I understood codependency, and I got out of it. And I've never been in a relationship with an addict ever since. My daughters are 43 years of age. I separated from their mother because it was so toxic. It was worse than heroin.
Yes, yeah, that's my thing. People don't understand that it is. They look upon drugs as heroin or ice or whatever, relationship addiction. And I don't believe, Ron, you don't need to go to any of the tragedies you see on the news, like murders, domestic violence. I don't believe you need to go down too far. It's codependency, the absolute obsession of control.
I believe all the murders on the women and men, all the relationships where there's violence, is all about codependency.
Right on, 100%. I love it, 100%.
And my mother, God rest her soul, my father used to bash her, and she'd leave, and then she'd come back and he'd bash her. And if she left, he'd chase her to go to her mother's house. He'd beat her up, and he'd beat her parents up, and he'd take her home. This is back in the 50s, you got to remember. And my father, we would physically abuse my mother. He'd break her ribs, he'd break her nose, and all that sort of thing, And the cops would come around, and they used to say, "Tell her to keep it down."
Precisely,
Tell her
Ron.
keep
That's
it down.
precisely. And people say to me now, Ron, like, oh, someone's beating them up, and they go, I can't understand how they go back. I go, I can.
Yeah,
I did it.
yeah. My mum passed away when I was 19, my real mother.
Okay, sorry to hear that.
Oh, no, mate. She passed away, I believe, because she gave away the will to live. She didn't want to be with my father anymore. And then
I can understand that too, Ron. I wanted to die. I couldn't do it anymore.
Well, Mum smoked non-filtered cigarettes. He wouldn't let her drink. I got her stoned on pot one night when I was a teenager so she could experience it. But she did in so much fear and so much control. When he stopped drinking, she had to stop drinking. So he stopped drinking when I was born in 1954. And the abuse and the pain and suffering she went through, but she stayed. And she'd say, "Oh, I'm only here for you kids." And I'd go, "Don't stay for us kids, And I learned a lot from it, because I've been married a few times and I don't stay in bad relationships. If someone doesn't want to be with me, go. Because the degradation and self-worth damage that's done in codependent relationships kills our spirit. And I believe our spirit is the most important part about it being a human being, because we're spiritual people. No, I'm not talking about religion here. I'm talking about spirituality.
I hear you.
Just being a good person is
That's right.
spirituality.
And it also results, Ron, in like cancer, autoimmune. We get sick. And we now know with the neuroscience, neuropsychology, psychiatry, that when we're under constant stress, fear like your mother, fear like I was in, fear like my mother was in, when we're in that, it downregulates the genes that cause disease. We're in fight or flight the whole time.
Negativity.
And we're not meant to live like, the body can't sustain that.
Yeah. And that's why I always talk about when people have this codependency or addictions and anything else, I say, what is your higher power? What is your belief system? Where do you find faith? Where do you find trust? Where do you find purpose? If you're living in fear, you can't have faith, because faith and fear can't be in the same room at the same time. I did a podcast with one of the, and because you're a Kiwi, you're going to know what I'm talking about, one of the founding members of the Black Power group, the Black Power gang. And he's turned into Christianity now. And he said to me, he said, brother, he said, one day fear knocked on my door and I asked faith to open it. He said, when he opened it, there was no one there. It's because fear and faith can't be in the same place at the same time. This has come from a man who admitted to beating his wife, to beating his children, to beating everybody. But it was all about abuse and coercive, control.
Yes.
Threat. Do you know what? And you'll relate to this. The verbal abuse was 10 times worse than the physical abuse.
It is, but that's coming. You can't see it. Nobody can see the bruises or the black eye. The inside, yeah, absolutely.
Roslyn, you know that. The scars of verbal abuse and spiritual bankruptcy. I'd rather get punched in the face than be told I was worthless, useless, and hopeless.
I absolutely agree with you. And it is. And the more for my marriage was going under, the more I was trying to keep these beach balls underwater and make it look like it was doing all right. And the more that pushed me out to my other addictions like work and control and drama and all of the stuff. I was fully blown addict. So, but then of course I crashed. I couldn't keep the game going anymore.
A lot of people won't understand that you call yourself an addict, but I do. I understand it fully because I've been in addiction for so long, worked in addiction. People go like, oh, but, she wasn't snorting cocaine or she wasn't shooting heroin. She wasn't homeless in a park. Maybe she was spiritually and emotionally bankrupt and she was in a relationship that was causing harm and she couldn't get out of it. I was in a relationship with heroin.
I coach people now within this. I've created a purpose out of this. I've written a book here called Recover from Codependency.
Okay, cool.
It's very practical, Ron, because you don't want a big... If people gave me a great big book, I wouldn't have been able to read it. Sustainable steps to heal the addiction that screams the loudest and is the least understood.
Yep. See, we deal a lot with victims of sexual abuse.
Yes.
Now, I believe that codependency could fit into that category.
Most definitely.
Especially
It fits into because underneath we've got to, and also, go back to where we insecurely attached over authenticity because we had to survive as children. Of course we do. We make our parents our higher power, all of the stuff So what I've done with that now is that I speak on it, I run workshops, I'm very passionate because even today, my opinion, people don't understand codependency.
Yeah.
They might.
People don't want to understand it because a lot of them have got it.
That's full of it, yeah, absolutely. And they don't want to, that's right. So that's when people come to me, they might be quite broken. And then we look into the different areas of their life where it's usually one big thing that brings them to me. Like myself, you have that moment and it's amazing. I love watching them bloom. And I say to them when they ring me, if you're looking for a silver bullet, I'm not it because I tried them all. So, and I spent hundreds of thousands doing all that. Sometimes I'd be at 3 12-step meetings a day just to survive. I can take you on a bus tour around Brisbane and I can go big. I know where all the meetings are, as a lot of 12-steppers do. So that's what That's what I do now. And also I'm able to sit in the seat of helping parents who've got children in addiction.
You touched on a subject that's very close to my heart, children, because I have a child who's 18 years clean. She's 43. She's still my baby.
Yes, of course.
And she's a 12-step recovery baby. She grew up in the rooms. I met her mother in rehab. So she
Yes.
grew up in the rooms. I was a single father. She had to come to meetings with me because I'm
Yes.
a 12-step person. And I'm not saying 12 steps is the only way, but it's the only way for me.
Whichever way you choose, if it keeps you in recovery and keeps you in emotional sobriety, not just not using the substance, that's a dry drunk. Not just that, if it keeps you growing, then that. I think the 12 steps saved my life at that time. And it's a wonderful spiritually engineered mandate for everybody. I bought a book last year on that it's called 12 Step Anonymous for everybody. I think most people need the 12 steps, to be honest.
I talk about it all the time. If the whole world worked on the 12 steps, we'd have a better place.
Way better. I couldn't agree more.
And we'll touch on this quickly. Codependency, people think it means a relationship between a man and a woman, right? What about the parents of addicts? You can't tell me that's not one of the biggest codependencies, one of the most hard, because I deal a lot with a lot of young fellas and girls, and usually the parents are the problem.
Exactly, and I work with people like that to get them they're addicted to the substance, but the parents are addicted to the kids, and they're doing that to not do their own codependency work. I couldn't exactly, and also because I was so fully blown codependent, my friendships were codependent. My business relation, it was all, I say, if you're codependent in one area, you're codependent in every area.
I know people that are 40 and 50 years sober in 12-step programs who are still codependent in really toxic relationships.
Yes. So they're not sober they're not in sobriety. I call sobriety, of sound mind and being aligned, your spine, your mind aligned with the Creator in all areas of your life. So I don't deal with that. And often those people will boast, well, I go to 3 meetings a week. I believe people can become addicted to the 12-step program as well and use it as avoidance. Use it or any program, not just the 12-step. We can all cunning, baffling, powerful. We can all use it to our own advantage if we don't want to get rigorously honest and really clean up and take responsibility.
You've got to do the work.
Yep.
And you've got to work the 12 steps. You don't get clean by osmosis.
No.
You just don't.
Well, no one can go to the gym and build my muscles. Like, I wish they could, but they can't. Yeah. So and that's what when I'm working with people, it's about them. I say, stay in your own paddock and don't get out. Let's do the work there. You'll see the effects. Don't tell anybody what you're doing. You'll see the effects, helping them to start to set little boundaries and hold them baby step by baby step for sustainability.
Yeah. One of the questions I get asked a lot is, how do I get self-worth? I say, do worthy things.
That's right. And also be accountable to yourself. Like you build your own self-belief.
Yeah, what's a worthy thing? Being congruent, being consistent, being honest, being thorough, making your bed in the morning, cleaning your teeth.
That's it.
Start with the little things and we'll go into, see.
Right on, you're my cup of tea. Right on.
The 1% are the ones that matter, not the 99%, the 1%. No.
And 1% every day is 350% a year. And you're right on. You're speaking absolutely. And I get on my soapbox about this and people go, but they try to challenge me. The bottom line is the bottom line, and if it's affecting your life, people say to me, but I don't know whether they're alcoholic or what. If it's causing problems in your marriage or your family, it's a problem. Forget about the label.
If it's costing you more than money, it's a problem.
Way more. Money is probably the least that it costs you, let alone your own life and the anguish.
I have friends who are extremely wealthy. I'm a property developer, so I associate with some extremely wealthy people, and all they've got is money. I say to them, you're so poor that all you have is money.
That's it.
They have no life.
I coach them. They're bankrupt. Inside, they're empty. And the trips to Europe and the new Mercedes, they start holding no value.
I've been there. I've been down that road. I drove out of America in a brand new car in 1999, a brand new Corvette convertible, bright yellow, beautiful car with my young American wife, and there was not 1 ounce of gratitude there. I was emotionally and spiritually bankrupt, and I was probably 10 years sober. I was 10 years drug free.
Yeah.
I wasn't sober.
No,
I had no
that's
spiritual
exactly
worth.
right.
Yeah, I had no spiritual worth, and I had no self-worth. Because you can't have spiritual worth till you get self-worth. You can't love somebody else till you learn to love yourself.
But we draw on the Spirit to help us on that. We can't.
100%.
It's a spiritual journey. And I wasn't brought up with any form of higher power, nothing in our home, nothing. So actually the 12 steps, the Al-Anon group I went to, that got me to start to open up about there is a higher power. That's what that did for me. And when I'd go at first, Ron, I'd go and they'd ask me to read and I was happy to read, but I couldn't even say that God word. I'd skip over it. I couldn't.
Yeah.
So it opened me up to the possibility that there was something else I could lean on. The first 2 steps, my life is unmanageable, handed over to, that wasn't even in my reference of living. I had no reference for that before the 12 step.
Yeah. Oh, look, you're talking to the converted here. I love the 12-step program. It not only saved me a life, it gave me a life. Okay, couple of questions. Where can people buy your book?
Amazon,
Okay.
And I think it's only $20 or something. I want it to be, when you write a book, it's not like you make money out of it, but it's distilled my journey of what to help others take a shortcut or do that. So Amazon, that's yours, okay?
It's my book, and it wasn't written to make money out of. I didn't make 1 cent out of my book.
No, you don't. And it's really my business card, or I want people to read, and I want it to be relatable so they can see themselves in that book, just like I did, 26 years ago when I got that book. That's me. But then we need someone to help us on that road.
Yeah. And what I found the book for me was it took away the secrets and it stopped the gossip.
Yes.
Because I told the truth. I wrote, what I wrote in my book was the truth. And it was really warts and all. It's a very hard book. It talks about my father being a physical and sexual abuser, about the violence, about the corruption, about all that stuff, because my dad was a gangster. And I didn't lie about anything. And everything I wrote, I had backup stuff. I put my criminal history in there because I was a career criminal. I was brought up a gangster, and I actually put my criminal record on the front cover just to say, mate, because people want to judge us from our past. And as I say, judging me from my past is like breaking into a house I used to live in. There's no one there. I don't live in that house anymore.
Oh, that's a good quote. Also, what I find, Ron, is because we've been there, and when people come to me and they feel shame and guilt, I go, there's no judgment because I was you too.
Yeah, exactly.
I was you too. So they then feel like, I'm sure they do with you, safer to start getting more and more honest and to lift those layers and start to rebuild.
Yeah. And as I say to them, you can't bullshit a bullshitter. I bullshitted myself for years,
Well, I did too, Ron. It may not have been
no more. My last one, no.
Yeah, I did too. I was lying. But if you ask me, are you a liar? I would say, or are you? No, I don't tell lies. But I was saying yes to things. I was holding people in my life for fear of losing them. I would go to places I didn't want to go, and then I'd be resentful and be a victim. Yeah, then I'd gossip about them. Like all of that garbage way of living. That, I was just the same as anybody else.
Yeah. This has been a really, really nice conversation.
Me too, Ron. Thank you.
It's been a really nice surprise because I think you're the first person I've had on my podcast that has addressed codependency. My program is called The Truth About Addiction, and I've had children of addicts or parents of addicts, and I've had addicts, and I've had alcoholics, and I've had gamblers, and I've had sex addicts, and I've had all these, but no one's talked about codependency.
Yay.
It's something that I think we underestimate the power of it and the destructiveness of it.
Absolutely. Couldn't.
I really 100%. Do,
100%.
Because it's the invisible. It's the invisible killer.
100%. But I want to shout it from the rooftops because there's people suffering with it.
Yeah, recover out loud so people don't have to suffer in silence.
That's
one of my
right.
favourite
That's
sayings.
a beautiful quote as well.
Yeah, I love that
And
quote.
and Ron, sorry, I'm interrupting you there, but what a gift we've been given. Like, I'm grateful for that gift.
Yep.
What a
100%.
gift. And now hand this, the 12th step, to hand this
Yeah.
on to others.
Sometimes when you're counselling somebody, this is a personal question, and the viewers and the listeners can take with what they like. But I give information that I don't know where it comes from. When I'm talking to somebody and I'm counselling them and I'm talking to them, and all of a sudden I say something, I think, where the bloody hell did that come from? And I believe that's the spirit working through us.
Truly, it's coming through. You can't, and I'm sure like you can't shut me up and it is spirit. I totally agree with that as well.
When I wrote my life story, it was like my pen took control of my hand, and my hand just followed the pen. My brain didn't even really think. It was just, and I find that when I counsel people, because I counsel from my heart, not from my head.
Well, you get in your spiritual zone, and it comes through.
Yeah.
You know,
I actually pray before I do stuff with people to be a conduit between their spirit and my spirit, so that I can help them. Because I make a joke out of it. My higher power hasn't spoke to me personally since I stopped taking amphetamines. When I was in psychosis, but he works through other people. That spirit that I believe in, that energy, that vibration that we feel.
frequency.
A lot of people don't understand it. The frequency. I can walk into a room and there can be 100 people in there, and all of a sudden I get a really bad vibe off that guy or that girl. And it doesn't matter how attractive or how big and muscly or how rich they look. I don't want to be around that energy. So there's got to be something in that, and I believe in energy. I really do. I believe that we have a good and we have a bad, and it's up to us to choose. We do have a choice. I believe that's part of it. Once we get the courage to take that step forward, and we have education, and that's what you're doing. You're an educator, you're a teacher. So you seeked, now you educate. Exactly the same as me.
Exactly. And I mean, there's more and more scientific evidence coming out, about the frequency. Your frequency is what you frequently see.
Yeah.
So if what you're seeing out there isn't like, instead of going out there and bashing someone or blaming them or saying that, judging them, come back home and look in here.
I love that. That's really nice. I like that. Your frequency is what you see.
Your frequency is what you frequently see.
I'm writing that down. I'm going to borrow that one.
Great. Please feel free. We need more of us out there beating this drum and speaking about this stuff. I believe addiction is the largest problem on the planet.
So do I. We've got a campaign at the moment. I've gone into a partnership with a young guy who's we're trying to put it before Parliament. We've got a petition out at the moment. We've got to get 20,000 signatures so we can get it to speak about how poker machines have no losing sound on them.
That's right.
We're starting a movement on that at the moment. Why?
Great, fantastic.
Because it destroys relationships. So our motivation is about the community. And as a human being, I believe, as you said, we've been gifted to survive an affliction, disease, whatever you want to call it, that we shouldn't have survived, that we didn't want to survive for a reason. Whatever got us through that was to carry a message. And I believe, my purpose in life is to carry a message that you don't have to suffer in silence. You can recover out loud. There is a way out. We found it. You found it. I found it.
I did want to die. I was begging to die. And I'm sure you've, had...
I was suiciding. I wanted to kill myself. Sometimes I was cranky when I woke up in the morning.
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm still here. I've done that too. No, I used to say, could you just take me while I sleep tonight?
Yeah, 100%, man. I've done that, And then I'll quickly touch on this one. When I was out there as a heroin addict, my mum had passed away when I was 19. I got adopted by a lady. She was a Greek woman. Her son and I were using heroin together. And last weekend I went down to Sydney to celebrate her 100th birthday. And this woman has never, ever, ever, in the 50 years that she's been my mum, I've never heard her say a bad word about anybody. Like, people like that are just, they're just Just don't exist.
Beautiful. Oh,
That's her
beautiful,
and my
Ron.
brother celebrating her 100th birthday.
Beautiful. How, like, what a privilege, what pressure,
That, to me, I get emotional thinking about it. She lived on her own till she was 96, still took care of her own house, cooked for herself, cleaned her house, and did her garden till she was 96. And then she got sick and we had to start to intervene. It's quite fun. We put her into a nursing home, but it's a really nice nursing home. And because, I used to be a criminal and I was a bad guy, when I went to visit her, she goes, Bonnie, they're putting me in prison. I said, Mum, it's not prison. Trust me. No, darling, it's prison. It's the same. She's Greek. I'm saying, Mum, it's not prison. I've been to prison. You know that. Where you're going is not there. But she loves it there now, Her husband, Bill, died 27 years ago. And when she got really sick 4 years ago, she said to me, I want to die. But she'd lived 26 years without Bill. I said, Mum, it's not time. And she said, I want to go back with Bill. But so she's lived 25 years with her husband's being passed away. But she didn't have that codependency. She still lived on without it and she still created this beautiful life. And then I look at people like my mum who didn't want to live because my father was such an arsehole.
Well, it was too much suffering for her, too painful, too painful for her to stay.
If it wasn't for you kids, I wish God would just take me.
Yes.
And I used to think, what the hell are you, I'm an 18-year-old, 17-year-old kid. I'm thinking, what are you talking about? That's just crazy. The reality is, for me, having you on today, Roslyn's been a little bit of a ray of sunshine. As I said, codependency. I think we might do a follow-up podcast on this and talk more in depth and maybe break it down for the audience so the audience can actually understand. Because some people are codependent, they don't even know that.
Most people. I'd like to share a little story, Ron. I go and speak at the Relaxation Centre of Queensland every quarter, and I was there this particular night talking my talk, and there was a girl at the back of the room. There was about 14 or 15 people there at the talk, and she was standing up at the back, and she put her hand up when I was nearly finished my talk, and she said, I'm a psychiatric nurse, and I work at Wollston Park. I know where that place is, the psychiatric hospital, and she said we get taught none of this.
She's sad. Our medical system's really broken down and it's really inadequate.
Well, the society's feeding into that. They've got them looping back and looping back and looping back and not giving them responsibility and the right support to help them rebuild themselves from the inside out.
Yeah, because the government have the same issues as those people, like I believe the government is very irresponsible and very selfish, and I don't believe that we are going to change them, but I believe we're going to change a lot of other people. And one day at a time, we'll get somebody in there one day who is honest and sincere and has a purpose of putting society first.
That's right. But in the meantime, we're out there doing it one person at a time, one day at a time, as you say. And you can't fix the establishment by being in the establishment. So instead of me going, there's nothing, the government doesn't help, I'll do it myself. I'll create my own business and do it one-on-one and speak and do whatever.
That's it. Roslyn, it's been such a pleasure. I know what your purpose is. Your purpose is to carry a message of recovery to the people who still suffer. Yes. I love how passionate you are. I really enjoy the passion. If I start talking about recovery, and I'll debate
shut
recovery.
Us up, Ron. You can't shut us up, Ron.
I'll debate till the cows come home because I'm living proof. I had my 40 years clean from drugs. That's from my power.
That's a miracle. They're miracles.
Yeah, and that's on the 12 steps and the people that I surround myself with.
Absolutely.
But yeah, Roslyn, this has been a really, really fun chat, and thank you very much for coming on The Truth About Addiction.
Well, thank you very, very much for having me on.
I solemnly swear that I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.